Don't sleep in the subway, darling. Don't stand in the pouring rain. No, in fact, what you should do is watch a fountain pen shootout. And today we'll be talking about two pens by a brand that I really like, Faber-Castell. These are two affordable pens, the Basic and the Loom. They're pretty affordable. I don't have prices in my head right now, but these will not really break your back. They're not $10, but they are not hundreds of dollars either. So they're pretty affordable. I have separate reviews of these two pens on my channel, so if you're interested in those, check them out and you'll get more details about the pens. For now, I'll just do a quick rundown, then I'll show you how to take them apart, then I'll do a writing sample, and that's all there's to it. So, let's start with the Basic, simply because that's the first pen I got of the two. The Basic, what I like is there is an etching in the cap. So the logo of Faber-Castell, I'm going to take off the barrel for a second because it's very heavy. The logo is actually in there in relief, which I enjoy. It even says that it's established in 1761. It has a little logo of a knight on a horse, two knights on two horses, in fact, in this case, which I enjoy. So, the clip is fairly springy, quite nice. I like that. The cap feels a little rubbery, and the section is has the same sort of rubbery material. You can get these in a number of finishes. I got the matte barrel. You can also get them with glossy barrels, shiny barrels, which look something like this. I got a broad nib because I like broad nibs, as you know, and I like these nibs. I like the way what they did with the decoration on there, which has these dot things going on, which I quite enjoy for some reason. The barrel on the Basic is something that deserves special mention. There are no real features on there except from a small step down right there, but these barrels are really heavy. I mean, this is a serious barrel, and it really makes the pen very top heavy. I don't mind that so much, but if you like lighter pens, then this is not the pen for you. I mean, don't think it's the same weight as a regular metal barrel pen. This, for some reason, I don't know whether this is some type. Clearly, it's not massive metal because you know there's room for a converter or a cartridge in there, but it's really heavy. Okay, I think I've stressed that enough. It's not a small pen, and when you post it, the cap doesn't post too deeply, so then it's really huge. And it's also not particularly comfortable to use because the cap will actually fall off. It's not meant for posting, but then again, would it be necessary to post it into this huge monster? Okay, the Loom. The Loom is the smaller one of the two. I'll cover it a bit and then I'll show you the comparison. Again, clip, nice and springy. It's spring-loaded, this one, so I really like that. It also has that Faber-Castell logo in relief in there. I'm not sure whether I should show you that again, but let's do that quickly. You see it, Faber-Castell. As you can see, the cap is a bit more shiny here. You can also get these in a bunch of finishes, including with colored caps with different colors. We have the barrel, quite a bit shorter than that of the Basic, but again, different finishes. The section is a bit different here. With the Basic, you get some interesting rings. You see that? That's a pretty fascinating thing because ink gets trapped in there when you fill it up. I'll come back to that later in the video. This pen doesn't have that. This has rings that actually, those rings, they stick out, so ink will not get trapped in there. I have heard from at least one person who said that he found the section too slippery. Personally, I haven't really had an issue with that. I think it's metal, but it could also be sort of metallic plastic. It's a little difficult to say from. One thing I do like about this pen is that the section and the barrel are flush. There is no step down, whereas the Basic does in fact have a small step down. It's very minor, but it is a step down. Both pens take cartridges and converters. I did not get a converter with the basic. I did not get a converter with the Loom. You have to buy them separately. And finally, the barrel on the Loom is way lighter than that of the basic. Okay, I'll show you the two pens side by side. As you can see, the basic on this side is quite a bit taller than the Loom. As to girth, I don't think there's such a huge difference. I think they're about the same girth, so that shouldn't really matter. The only thing is that the section on the Loom is a little bit more tapered, whereas that on the basic is really quite straight. One final thing I'll mention is that the basic has an ink window. It's not very easy to see, but this part is see-through, so you can actually see the ink level, except, as I said, it's not extremely, it's not that it's not clear, but it's a bit dark, so it's a little hard to look through it. And that's all there is to it. So, big and heavy, a bit shorter and a bit lighter. The nibs on both are very smooth. It's hard, I found that out during the writing sample, it's hard to pinpoint a winner, which is the smoothest, but both are very nice, very smooth. For this price, I think you get a fantastic nib on both pens. I'm really serious, I love the smoothness of these nibs. And that's all there is to it. So what I'll do next is show you how to take the pens apart, and I'll do a writing sample, and then we're done. So I hope this was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Alright, so here we go. Faber-Castell Loom and Faber-Castell Basic. I'll show you how to take these apart. It's very easy. Both have slip caps, which you can just slip off. That's why they're called slip caps. Barrel, you just take it off. You can put it on in one smooth twist, because they're quite heavy. You have the section. I added a converter to this pen. Maybe I should say a word or two about these converters. If you really want to, and I emphasize if, you can take these apart. You can slide off that metal ring. Of course, it's not going to work when I try it now. That's what I thought. Let's try the other one. That was a little easier, I think. Yeah, see, there you go. So you slide off that metal ring. It can be a bit more difficult. If it is very difficult, you probably don't want to take it apart at all. Now I have issues with the other one, so maybe it's a little bit more difficult in some converters. You can slide it off, and then you can take this out by sort of making a wriggling motion. Careful you don't break anything. Try to do this in slow motion, but at some point you'll pop the seal. It's difficult today. Oh, there we go. And then you can take this out, and then you can take the piston out. You can put some silicone grease on those threads, a little bit around the seal. You put that back in there. You can slide this back in. Now when you do that too often, I've got the feeling that the seal is broken. Not the seal at this point, but this seal, so that air will escape, and then when you draw up air, it'll just drip out again. So I would recommend you only try to do this when you got ink behind the piston seal, or it's very dirty or discolored. You really want to open it up. Okay. Trying to slide that metal ring back in place. Yeah, okay. That's good enough for now. Alright, so we have the converter stuff. I'll put that basic back together. Okay, the Loom. What else can you do? Well, you can remove the nib and feed, and that's a unit. So what you can do is take your finger. I always like this technique. You put the side of the nib you actually look at when you write in the crook of your finger. You put your thumb on the feed, and then very gently you unscrew the whole section, keeping pressure with your thumb on the feed. And then you see this whole nib unit comes out, and you can take out the nib and feed altogether. When you put it back together again, you may notice that there is a little notch, a little thing, a little hole right there in the nib collar, and that is there's also a groove right there on the bottom end of the feed, and those two should align as well as you can make them align. I have the feeling that's an air exchange thing. Okay, now you can slide that back in, or if you don't want to do it like that. The nib actually slides in place onto the feed, you see. You cannot put that any further. I always like that. That way you know you get the correct alignment. You put this back in, then you can twist it around a little bit if it's necessary, but if you just take care, you align those grooves well, then you should be okay. The Basic has a very comparable system. So you unscrew the barrel. This barrel is so heavy, it's amazing. Now you have the section, and you can again unscrew the whole section, and as you can see, you get two nib and feed units that are identical, so you can switch them around. For me, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense because they're broad nibs in both, but if you would have, you know, two different nib grades, then you can easily switch them around. And of course, if you think all of this is too much trouble, then something you can always do is just to pull out the nib and feed straight from the section, which is also an option. So, there you have it. A lot of options. This click back in place, sort of. Alright. Put those converters back on there. I'm going to ink up one. I don't want to waste your time too much, so I'll ink up the Loom, and then I'll do the other one off screen, and that's pretty much all there's to it. What ink shall I use? You know what? I've got one ink within hand's reach here. It happens to be one of my favorite Ackerman inks. I'll use that. That's an extreme close-up of my hands, isn't it? Right. And there we go. So, I'll link up the other one, and I'll do a writing sound. Okay, so on this side, what we have is the Loom. And the ink is Ackerman Trève Turquoise. Ackerman Trève Turquoise. Alright, so we have a Loom. The nib is broad. We have a basic. Oops, the cap didn't come off. The nib is also broad. And there are two minor things I'd like to tell you. Sorry, I didn't tell you those before, but I'm going to tell you that now. Should you decide to take that converter apart, then put some silicone grease under the metal ring. So put some silicone grease where the metal ring used to be. That creates an additional seal and makes it easier to slide that ring back in place. Just a little tip. Also with the basic, you may want to ink up the converter directly. So stick the converter into the ink bottle and not the actual section. The reason being of these grooves. Ink gets trapped in there, they're difficult to clean, and someone else's basic has actually discolored because of all the ink, and we couldn't get it off. So that's a bit of an issue. Okay, the Loom. The quick brown fox was looming. So what I'm trying to say is that basically the QBF was looming. Alright, so what we have here is two nibs. Both nibs that are broad, both nibs are from Faber-Castell, and yet there is a difference in the way they write. What is that difference? Can I establish that? The Loom. These hard starts are not common. The reason I do this is that I keep them uncapped right next to me on an ink cloth, otherwise I have to cap and uncap them every time. So don't think I've never seen them do that in real life. You also hear a different sound, at least I do. trying to figure out which of these is the smoother one. The Loom. The Loom is the smoother one. What about wetness? I could swear these two nibs were identical, but maybe they are not. And I think I've just seen something that makes them a little different. Now, don't get me wrong. The Basic has a fantastically smooth nib. You see they lay down nice even patches of ink, very good ink flow, very smooth, very nice. So what is the difference? I don't know, but I've got the feeling, I'm just grabbing a loop here, I've got the feeling that let me see. The Loom seems to have just a little bit more nib tipping. Let me just switch this on. Okay, let's see how this works. Here you got a nib. I'm going to try and make you see the nib in close-up. Oh, that's blinding. We don't actually need the light. There we go. Here we got some nice nib tipping. That's on the Basic. Now on the Loom, the tipping, which I cannot really show you, I cannot show you the two tips at the same time, because I only have two hands, unless I think laterally and put two pens in the same hand and try to fit those into the loop. That's going to be a challenge. Hold them as chopsticks, put them together. This is not a huge success. The only thing I was trying to show you, let me see. Top one Loom seems to have more tipping, at least the tipping is more elongated somehow. I don't know exactly how that works, but I can definitely see it with the naked eye. It's more elongated, and maybe it's just I don't see a lot on the side where it actually matters, which is the side touching the paper. I really see a difference there. But something interesting is going on that makes the Loom feel, to me, a little smoother. Fascinating. Okay, finally, line variation. You see you can get some. Not extremely pronounced, but you can get some. Come get some. Duke Nukem. Anyone ever played that? I remember the days of old. Anyway, some line variation too. I don't think there's such a huge difference here. Although the Loom to me looks just a little bit broader, but it's a millimeter of a millimeter, so it's a very small bit of variation. Okay, so there you have it. Sorry for the fooling around with the loops and the nibs. I tried to make the detail a little clear. I'm not sure whether it worked out, but at least it was a valiant attempt, even if I say so myself. Two great pens. Which one should you get? Well, I think I've just forgotten which one is the cheaper. If you need a bigger one, then you need the Basic. I cannot stress enough how heavy this barrel is. It's really heavy. The Loom is much lighter, more portable, smaller. So if that's what you enjoy, then you should get that. And you know, that's pretty much all there is to it. So I hope this comparison was useful, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.